Hello, good evening. Welcome to Everyman Chess. I've just got three books to show you. The first of these, I put the contact details down below, so the full titles and their website and an email address and so forth. Here it is. It's a lovely cover. Very creative and interesting, eye-catching. I'll just read to you what it says, not every word. What exactly makes the greatest players of all time, such as Magnus Carlsen, Bobby Fischer, and Garry Kasparov, stand out from the rest? I should think probably winning all their games. The basic aspects of chess, calculation, study of opening theory, and technical endgame ability are, of course, of great importance. So it's having a cup of coffee, so hang on a tick. Not too bad. However, the more mysterious part of chess ability lies within the thought process. In particular, how does one evaluate certain moves to be better than others? How does one improve their feel of the game? This book will tackle this woefully unexplored aspect of chess, the logic behind the game. It will explain how chess works at a fundamental level, what to think about, how to formulate and execute plans, how to generate and make use of the initiative. And it gives 270 practical exercises. And the price for this is in the US $27.95, and in the UK, here in good old England, $18.99, which is perhaps a little pricey, but I wouldn't overstate that issue. Not at all. So let's have a look, see what we're getting. Mastering chess logic, an enormous amount of discussion like that, which perhaps might have been doing us a favor if they put boards in, put the diagrams in. Obviously the diagrams are here, but you have to check back and forth. Maybe a couple of bookmarks are called for, particularly if, like me, you're a bit of a hesitant reader. You find these things more difficult than you care to admit. And that doesn't mean to say you're not any good at chess. I think some of the best players are thorough. You can go through them at your own pace, and that's the fun of it, isn't it? Let me just show you. There's up to 6 diagrams on a page. Let's just show you that. Look at that. It's nice and clean, isn't it? All of the games, I think I'm right in saying, are recent. So from this year or from last year, they're all 21st century. And they've mixed in, there are, it has to be admitted, a very large amount of games from perhaps lesser lights. We are almost at the end of our journey together, and we thank the reader for putting up with us for so long. That's very sweet, isn't it? Self-deprecatory. We hope you will be in a better place upon finishing this book regarding your practical play and ability to approach decisions logically. Well, I don't know about that, but maybe you will be. I have to say, I didn't fall in love with this book. The authors are Sheng and Song. They're both of master strength. They give rather too many of their own games, and then Botvinnik Capablanca and Tao and Kasparov and Hervé's game from Zurich 53, where he beat Geller with that rook sacrifice. I can't help thinking that those are curious bedfellows with games played by talented and young amateurs, but there we are. I'll just read you out the chapter headings, which will give you... I want to start by congratulating the readers on having such great taste in chess literature. At a time when it seems there is a chess book about every piece and square on the board, the authors take an obscure topic This is essential to every chess player. Well, there are books with the word logic in it. There's one by Dr. Erver, isn't there? You know that one? There's one by Gaprindishvili. The first chapter is called Building Blocks. I was rather hoping there'd be a contents list and I could read them out to you. Oh yes. Know what you have. Mise en place. Don't quite know what that means. The big game, beginning and end, that was what I was showing you before, and solutions, which I was showing you before. And then there's the index. And this is how the games are annotated. Plenty of background information, and it's done in figurine algebraic notation, which is what all of them are now, aren't they, really? We've got 256 pages, so it's a fairly heavy read. This chapter aims to tie up some loose ends and enable us to identify the right candidate moves when playing. The chapter title, Mise en place, ties into the quite nicely. It is French for everything in its place. Well, I didn't know that. Okay, so I've learned something. I was never very good at French at school. Mind you, the French teacher wasn't very good at chess, so it cuts both ways, listeners. I promise that before I get much older, I will play through some of these games in here, which I haven't thus far, but I have been through some of the positions and seen what I can get out of them, and I found them pretty tough. I could do one or two, but quite a lot I couldn't, it has to be admitted. So if you're inexperienced at the game, or you're not very good tactically, or you've already got some books of tactics, it may be the word logical, logic appearing in the title attracts you, in which case have a jolly good look through before you buy it, just to make sure that it's your type of thing, which I hope it is. The second one has been out for a while, but I like it very much. That is, it's by Cyrus Lakdawala. And Cyrus has written very, very many books. I don't know how many in the last 5 years or something. The book deals with a repertoire after White has played 1e4, and a list of the complete games at the back. It was useful to look through, isn't it, to see what flavour you might be. And as you can see, the author's name does on occasion crop up, but mostly we've got Caruana, Karpov, Kasparov, Duda, Carlson, Wolf Anderson, some of my own generation. And turning over, Peter Lico, you're in safe hands here. 3 or 4 games, 4 I think, by the author, Bashir Lagrave. Now, what is he actually proposing? Before you get any further into the realms of excitement, Cyrus is an international master, a former National Open and American Open champion, and 6 times state champion. He's been teaching chess for over 30 years and coaches some of the top juniors in the US. And believe you me, there are some strong juniors in the US, particularly at the moment. God, ever. I just don't know. It's going to blow the top off the international game. I've had some correspondence with Cyrus, and he's also come on the Zoom, which I do too, organised by Camberley Chess Club, and he gave us a talk. It's still online, so if you go to the website of Camberley Chess Club, you will find it, I think, and I hope. The 10 Commandments say, honour your father and mother. Yet I routinely violate my dad's advice. Clearly White's best move. He always said pawn to king 4. Well, as I get older, I play more experimentally. But I think 1e4 gives me the sort of tactical game that I enjoy the most. But I like playing Queen's Gambits. But anyway, that's nothing to do with anything. They're talking about the double king pawn, e4, e5, and he recommends the bishop's opening. In the Sicilian, he recommends the Moscow variation, 3 bishop b5 check. The Rossolimo variation, 3 bishop b5 against 2 knight c6. And finally, 3 c3 against the 2 e6 Sicilian. Those were all Sicilians. Against the French, he recommends, he says this could be harmless looking, 3 e5 and 3 e5 in the Caracan 2. Against the modern, he recommends just the 2 knights out, and in the center counter, he recommends knight c3. So 3 knight after queen takes d5, knight c3, and the queen has to take up a new post. In the Alekhine defense, he recommends the exchange variation, so you play e takes d6, which somewhat breaks the tension, doesn't it? And then he launches into detailed discussion, as only Cyrus can. I have to tell you, I'm a bit of a fan of this gentleman from the US. I like his writings. I think they're lively and varied, and he never takes himself too seriously, although if he wishes to go to look at this, I mean, this is heavy duty. This is heavy duty. But I don't feel he ever pads things out or loses his sense of perspective. And I think his suggestions are very good. This could be an interesting little addition, not so little actually, addition to your library. I really hope that you'll give it your time. It's got 336 pages in it, so it's a whopper. And I like it. I like it very much. There we are. Again, it's an Everyman Chess book. Everything I'm showing this time round is an Everyman book. This is the third and final book. Looks like a military textbook, doesn't it? Or military manual. Look at that. Tactical training. You found with this in your luggage when you're going abroad, the customs people will pull it out and say, oh, do you have a gun, sir? Do you have a license? And there are the crosshairs. And this is a very, very good book. I'm just going to read it cold. I haven't rehearsed anything, and this isn't a book I've looked into with any depth yet. It is hard to understand the importance of tactical ability to overhaul chess proficiency. Of course, some elements such as knowledge of the opening play and understand the strategy are also important. However, it is undoubtedly the case that 99% of games are won or lost because one player either spots or overlooks a tactic. With sadness, I must say that recently I have overlooked a lot of things in my games online. Consider your own games and just imagine how much stronger you would be if you never overlooked a tactical idea. The good news is that your tactical ability is not some genetically acquired unalterable trait. Well, my parents are long gone, so I can't dig them up and tell them that. Joke. Tactical ability can always be improved through the application of diligent practice. Tactical themes are repetitive. Well, they can be, yes. The same arrangement of pieces occurs again and again, and a continual study of the subtle interaction between the forces will inevitably lead to a great sharpness in actual play. He deals with checkmating patterns, 32 major combinational concepts, numerous positions ranked in terms of level of difficulty. Apparently the 2020, so last year, match between Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura, currently the two best ranked players in blitz form of chess where tactics predominate. This book retails at $32.95, or here in the UK, £25.99. And I will put the full title, the author's name, in case you missed it. They're in red. And it's just got 494 pages. That's a lot of chess. That is a lot. And to my surprise, it hasn't got an index. There it's got. That's a bit naughty, isn't it? We should have an index, I think. Let's see if it's got a contents list. Yes, it has, and it's quite detailed. Zungsang, Zwischenzug, X-ray. In other words, it lists it in alphabetical order. Annihilation of defensive barriers, avoidance, deflection, desperado, discovered attack, double attack, drawing combinations, fortress, Greek gift, bishop takes h7, bishop takes a2, that sort of thing, drawing the king out, stalemate, skewer, simplification, and so it goes on and on in lovely style. I really do like this book. I expect loaded up with the works from two of my favorite composers, Vasily Smyslov, and yes, that is the same guy who you will remember as a singer, and oh dear, I can't pronounce it, Aloha Watawa. Please excuse me, I'm not good at pronouncing his names. Here is the position between Anderson and Zucker Tort. Can you see that? Can you get that in? I think you can. With massive pressure against the black king. And in the end, Anderson takes on h7. The king recaptures, is forced to. The pawn promotes. And to use one of my favorite phrases, according to my old history teacher, all hell was let loose. Game by Spassky from 1960. Not one I knew. The great Boris. I think it was somebody that said to Spassky when he was going out the door to play in a match, possibly quite a tough one, and don't come back if you haven't sacrificed something. If that's true, I know it. There we are. There's the Spassky one there. And the winning move is Queen h6, with the threat of taking on g7, guarded by the knight, and also reinforced by the bishop, or the other way around if you prefer. And if he takes it, the knight comes in and the bishop covers the long diagonal. So some good stuff. And that's not very difficult, is it? I mean, you could work that one out. I bet there's loads of stuff in here you can't, but that's not quite the point. These are late middle games and end game positions. Position by Keres, and one by my very dear friend Hugh Myers. Unfortunately, Hugh lost. Oh, and I lost him too about 10 years ago. I miss him terribly. Hugh Myers from Iowa. I think Byron Jacobs has probably been put to task as a editor, as an editor. I know Byron writes about bridge, and he was at one time Eyes and Ears of Ray Keane, which he isn't anymore. Ray doesn't write for the Times or the Spectator anymore, but Byron does write for the Times. He writes about bridge. A game I don't know anything about. I was shown the rules. About 40 years ago whilst on holiday, and I think I left them there. I'm not turning up my nose at bridge, nor at card games. Of course I'm not. Some of these are amazing. It's even got the game between Paul Morphy and the Duke of Brunswick. I was thinking of writing a little booklet about that one game. Go through all my books and see how often it gets quoted. In my opinion, for what that's worth, it's quoted far too often. Here's a game by the great Pillsbury. And here's some explanation of what Scholar's Mate is. I think if you've got to page 43 in the book, you would already know what Scholar's Mate is. There it is. The queen can't be taken on f7 because it's guarded by the bishop. And the king has a flight square because the queen is in the way, his own queen. And the king can't shuffle forward because it's still checked from the queen. The queen can't be captured. And the check can't be blocked. So it's not just check, it's checkmate. Well, you didn't need telling that. Here's a little thing, a game by Sveshnikov, who died recently. So that's nice to put that in. Grandmaster Sveshnikov. There were some pretty detailed and heartfelt tributes to him. And he died last month, I think. I'm speaking to you nearly in October. I think he died June, July, something in August. I don't know exactly, but what I do know exactly is that he left an amazing legacy of theoretical books and games. It's an interesting example that a player doesn't have to be, say, as cutthroat as Alekhine, which almost precluded him enjoying his life much outside of the 64 squares. Lots and lots of examples from the 19th century. A game by Alekhine, so the practical side of the game is covered, and also theory, in as much that it gives studies and problems. Positioned by no less a player than Nimzovich. There we are. I used to go through hours and hours looking at Nimzovich's game today, or David can't even hold it still as usual. I think you're getting a flavour. No, I think you're getting a flavour. He's got more space in the centre. All of Black's pieces. This is Mr. Håkansson. Sounds Scandinavian, which is where Nimzovich rested his head, didn't he? And he has a lot more space for manoeuvring. I like it. There's a game by the author himself. He's got a rook. And his opponent has got a bishop and a pawn against, as I was saying, a rook and a pawn. And it's from the Canadian Open. Apparently, Kevin Spraggett was watching this game. I think Kevin is in Portugal. He was A very unusual player. I suppose Canada is a very unusual place, isn't it? Games by Carlson, going back 18 years when he was knee-high. Just going through that is quite slowly. This is supposed to be, I really think we might have been spared this, a game by Napoleon Bonaparte. N. Bonaparte, Chateau Malmaison. I went to a pub called Malmaison, and the lady I was with made me pay £8 for a little drink. Well, if she's watching, maybe she's going to buy me one. And at 6 o'clock in the evening, they lowered the lights as if it's going to be really romantic. And I just couldn't see anyway. So wasn't missing much. Games by Staunton, very strong emphasis on the 19th century. Very strong. Here's something from Never Neverland, a quadrupled pawn. I actually had a blitz game in which I had a quadrupled pawn. First time it's ever occurred in my career. Okay, my games. There we are. See all the black pawns and the king at the top and the two rooks. If you want to check that out, it's by Sheng, and it was published in 1911. Here's a game between David Bronstein and Geller. There was no love lost there, was there? And Bronstein sacrifices his queen in a very classy manner. Pain is the universal teacher. Once you receive it, we correct our old inferior habits. Well, Cyrus, I don't often disagree with you, but I wonder if that's true, old friend. It possibly is. And here is a game by no less a personage than John Sugden. Mr. Sugden is a former pupil of Dulwich College, I think, and he was also at Cambridge with Ray Keane. Nabokov. Here we are. Oh, it's just the author of Speak Memory and Lolita. I didn't realize that he had gone so far as to... what we didn't know was that Nabokov was a strong chess player himself. Yes, he was. I know Ray Keane met him, I think, at Geneva 77. I think probably he died in 1977 as well. Game by Ed Formanek. Troitsky, Frank Marshall. This is really rich with a fox. I think that's probably the Canadian. No, the Canadian was Maurice Fox, who's related to our own. You know what I'm going to say next? Do you know what I'm going to say at all? Yes. England has a player, Neil Fox, who I think is his grandson. Sadly, I don't think Neil plays anymore. He was a very strong junior. I think he became a travel agent. Longer Mates. And here, sadly, we have the same game by Napoleon Bonaparte, played in St. Helena, where he was sent possibly for the second time in exile. That was 5 years after Waterloo, after all. I don't think he lived much longer. I haven't got his dates at hand, but I don't think he did. Game of Capablancas. Game of Horowitz. Watawa. I mentioned earlier, didn't I? I've never heard of him. That's just my ignorance. Well, you've heard of him because I've just mentioned him. Adianto. I've seen his name for ages. playing Mr. Baburin, who is now in Ireland and spends his time auctioning books. He plays a little. He played in the Irish Championship this year. I think he came about third or something. He probably was expected to win it, but he didn't. It was won by the wonderful Mark Heidenfeld. I just had to get that in. Anyway, here is Mr. Bayer. He's the guy that lost that oft-quoted game against Lasker. Do you know the game? The bishop sacrifices. The bishops come smashing into his castle position. There's Watawa again. It sounds like it's a sort of Inuit name, doesn't it? And here we have a perfectly bog standard game between Port and Portish from Madrid, 1973. This was an early Karpov triumph, I think. Canadian Chess Chat. When I was 13, he played over this. Yes, I got some Canadian Chess Chat sent to me by Dr. Davinsky. And I wrote back and said, thank you, I'm thinking of subscribing. So he sent me some more, all free. You wouldn't get that nowadays, would you? And I didn't subscribe. No, it's very worthwhile magazine. Here's a position by no less a person than Mr. William Watson, involving a queen sacrifice. Ooh. This is easy. As Klaus Fitz said about strategy, it is simple, but it is not easy. I wonder if I can get that one in. Where are we? There we are. There it is. And the winning move is queen takes h7, king takes, and then rook d4, I think. Yes. And then it goes across, all the way across to the h file with a mate, because it mates the king on that line and on the G line. And the king is currently on the back rank. So there you are. Oh, here's a position which I think I can claim some credit for, because I sent it into BCM and they published it. And this is won by the late Jonathan Benjamin, and not Joe. I played John, who lost his fight with depression some years back, in a friendly game when I was sort of grade 80, or even aged 80, and he was about 180. And although I'd lost, it was quite close. At one point, I thought he was going to resign, and it was a King's Gambit. There's the position, which, as I say, is from BCM. Doesn't say that, but it is. It's also in a book by Leonard Barden. Jonathan was a Richmond junior, one of three brothers, all top hole at chess. More Smyslovs. Walter Brown versus Tony Miles. Both taken from us too young. Come back from heaven, Tony. And you, Walter. Another game of Morphe's. The field short change, ladies and gentlemen, if you see a game by B.C. Morphy. And, well, it just goes on and on. Great Riches. Another game between Karpov and Hort. Where's the middle? Well, my disappointment to the publishers, because it isn't indexed. I think it should be. You will have formed the opinion quite correctly that this is a cracking book. Thank you very much for listening. Please like and subscribe. It helps the channel, it helps my morale. And above all, get a catalogue, recent catalogue between now and Christmas maybe, and have a look through at the Everyman books. Thank you very much. Goodbye.